Alrighty, so third time's a charm as we get back to the Razer Think Fast Season 2. This is going to be Moscow 5 versus London Conspiracy after a long wait. London Conspiracy have gotten back their power, so now everything's working correctly for them. This is one of the downsides of being at a boot camp and being all together as a team. If you have some big emergency like that, it affects all of your teammates, so you can't just find a stand-in. Either way, we're back in this draft. I'm GrandisV, joined by HeflaTV, Lena Spiritbreaker, Phoenix for Moscow 5, Io Tiny, and Bane for London Conspiracy. After the second stage bans of Broodmother, Clockwork, Storm Spirit, and Zeus have hit the bin. Alrighty, after that's out of the way, we're back in this draft. Hello, HeflaTV.
Yes, I mean, just to inform all the people that, I don't know, have been waiting or that just joined, we had a long delay because London Conspiracy already said it. A storm hit the boot camp, everything went out. The draft, the previous one was paused, and we continue with this draft. It was just a new lobby, but Lena, Spiritbreaker, Io, Tiny, that's what we had, and now we're going to continue. Two new heroes have been coming up, that's the Phoenix and the Bane. So, again, apologies to all the people who are watching. And I know the chat is not the most informative thing, but that's exactly why you follow casters, for example, on Twitter, because I tweeted out all the news. So all those people who followed me there, they knew about what's going on. All those people who didn't realize it, well, they didn't read the chat or the screen whatsoever. Either way, Grandis, let's go back into this game. No more food talk, no more delays. I hope also the Lemon Dogs game will happen right after, just everything with a tiny bit delay depending on how long this game will last here. So let's go. New bans are coming.
Yeah, the next couple of picks are going to be Bane, Night Stalker for London Conspiracy, and Disruptor for Moscow 5. Pretty interesting combination, actually, from London Conspiracy at the moment. They're very aggressively slanted with this Night Stalker pick. The Bane's kind of there, not really setting up for anything. Kind of just a Bane for the sake of Bane pick, which I guess is alright. But this is definitely very team-specific. This is not your standard 6.83 meta. Disruptor for Moscow 5 is a little bit more standard and really good against Io Tiny. All things considered, I think Moscow 5 have some really good tools to deal with what London Conspiracy are bringing to the table, but at the moment, London Conspiracy seem to be buckling down and just focusing on their game, getting what they want without much regard to the enemy team.
Yep. When we had the Lena and only the Spirit Pack, I was not really sure in what position that Lena is. Now it's kind of obvious. This is a core Lena. We're going to see her in mid. What we need is one more farmer. We're going to have probably, it could be aggressive training with the Phoenix farming as well. Sometimes we see that, but I think you need a bit more emphasis. You need like some oomph behind that entire team, which means, well, Troll is something they ban out themselves. Jugger, something that London's Conspiracy just touched. So like those big fat, I don't know, very meta-heavy heroes are out already. It could still be something like a Void, even though there's not the best synergy right now for Moscow 5. Let's see. By the way, these games, they really remind me of BBC's games yesterday in the Yard G2A festival, because there we had similar heroes like Lena and Coral, Night Stalker, etc., etc.
Yeah, for London Conspiracy at the moment, I think more than anything, their team is really good at setting up global kills, with the Night Stalker offering the reduced vision onto Moscow 5 with the ability for Io and Tiny relocate. All they really need to have in position is a Bane to offer that Fiend script, and they can very consistently get kills. Bane is very good at setting up for an Io Tiny to relocate in, just with a large amount of single target disables.
Yep. So let's see where this one is going. I still think Moscow 5, they need something, but Grandis, what do we see? What kind of core can we have? I mean, we saw a PA last game by other teams, but it's a Slark. Yeah, Slark, PA, something like that was pretty much the option we had to go for. If this is the fourth position, Night Stalker, the Tiny goes with him in mid, then we need an offlaner for London Conspiracy, and yes, they choose the center. Yeah, I guess that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, fair enough. London Conspiracy going to get even more setup and the ability to get kills around the map. It's a very aggressive lineup from London Conspiracy. I'm not so sure if this is going to be a position for Night Stalker after all, however. With Io, Tiny, and Bane picked up by London Conspiracy, maybe they even throw the Night Stalker into a farming role. That would be something to see and could be interesting, but either way, very peculiar lineups. I think the Moscow 5s is just a little bit more stable when it comes to what they're bringing to bear inside this draft. Their mid-game fighting potential is through the roof, and even though late game they might not be able to compete directly against an Io Tiny, they have just such a large peak in power before then that they could be able to tie them over into that time in the game. Moscow 5 going to be playing on the dire side with Tron, playing on the Spirit Breaker, Lina going to be handled by Axmos, Slander on the Disruptor, Bignum on the Phoenix, and last but not least, Slark by ZXC.
Yep, and on the London Conspiracy side, in the offlane, we have Madara. That's actually surprising me right now because they changed up the position. I actually thought the center is going to be there. In the mid at the moment, we have Emperor on the Tiny, of course, with the IO. They just clear the trees at the moment with the tether, like Mr. Mystery is playing that IO, little bulb, light bulb. Borzolino, that's an interesting name, is on the Bane, and last but not least is Relax playing the center, and he spots out that Spirit Breaker at the moment. John, pretty aggressive, and well, he should not forget that his team is relatively far away, so you gotta be careful.
In the end, he's not going to pick any fights. He'll drop his ward and just sit behind the trees. He's going to be spotted out as the rest of his team is looking for the bottom bounty rune. Lina's currently sitting inside Fog as Axmo is going to look for a Light Strike array, potentially, if anybody comes up to take this bounty. Bane is sitting on the high ground with his range. I'm not sure if he can actually deny that out, and even so, his attack projectile's a little too slow in order to get that through. Looks like they'll secure this for Tron as Io gets the one up towards top, so Mr. Mystery can get his bottle pretty much at the 0-second mark.
Yep, that's definitely nice. With like only the chair tango, instant bottle by the IO, it's already, well, I was about to say flying out. I mean, it's a bird. That Kura is, by the way, pretty hilarious, but he's not flying yet. The bird's wings is just too weak.
He'll end up waddling out to lane, giving Mr. Mystery that extra bit of regen, especially for Emperor to stay sustained in this lane. 1v1, Tiny versus Lina. Lina would have quite an edge, but with some assistance from this IO, things are a lot easier for Emperor. But even so, if Lina can catch out an odd Light Strike array to land onto the IO in particular, there is killing potential still for Axmo.
Yep, definitely. And this farm and center, I haven't seen that for a long time, to be honest. And just here and there, sometimes picks it up in competitive Dota. This Night Stalker, then again, in the offlane at the moment, it seems like he's gonna get at least at level 2 relatively fast. But from there on, it's really dangerous for him, because if it lashes Slark versus Night Stalker with Eclipse back on level 1, that's really bad news. But at the moment, it's not gonna happen because he doesn't even have Glimpse, which means we're not gonna see any aggression from level 1 on. It has to be on level 2.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, but even so, Slander will continue to zone out the Night Stalker, even with just these two heroes. Without the Phoenix inside the lane, they're doing more than acceptably in this laning stage. Moscow 5 are getting farm on their Slark, a little bit on the Spirit Breaker, a little bit on the Phoenix. The biggest issue for them is that Lina, for the time being, is having a really poor time.
Oh, Madara, they actually opened on him. But wow, he even went in the direction of the Slark for a tiny bit. He's using the self, so he should be fine. But in the mid, we also had to go on the Lina, but both of them survived now. So 2 lanes, twice the aggression, and also the Spirit Breaker had like wanted to go for that Bane. In the end, nobody's dying, just tons of aggression at the same time in all 3 lanes.
Yeah, just a lot of posturing from both teams, really, and it's because they do have this raw killing potential, even at the very early portion of this game, to get kills. Icarus Dive going to be used by Bignum to secure the Haste rune. Probably not going to end up getting any kills for the team. Phoenix at this point, Haste really isn't going to change much. They would have much rather had that on Tron. But even so, things are looking alright for LC because their Tiny is doing so well. 13-6 compared to the 2-0 Lina. Axmo, although he's getting good experience, is feeling more and more like a support Lina. I honestly don't think he should be this scared. Although an Avalanche Toss combination is really threatening at the early point in the game, I think Axmo can survive through it.
Well, at this point, it's about 300 damage combination plus the IO Spirits, which is another 100, 125, something like that. So it is quite dangerous for him since he is just running around with 600 HP, no boots whatsoever, which means they could also chase him with superior movement speed, obviously due to tether and whatnot. So yeah, I think it's justified that he's really careful, and just for the sake of not feeding the first blood.
Well, fair enough. London Conspiracy also getting a lot of farm in their Centaurs. He works towards a Blink Dagger for him, but because of this dual lane setup coming up from Moscow 5, the aggression is isolated in small little pockets across the lanes instead of having major rotations. And a lot of that's also down to the support picks for both teams, in all honesty. They're going to look for Bignum, but Bane decides not to throw out the Nightmare. He's actually opted for Enfeeble at level 2. Pretty annoying for Tron to deal with.
And at the moment, it's pretty interesting to see that both of these teams are pretty inactive, if you want to call it like this, or playing conservatively. it doesn't really matter how you label it. The fact is that both of them are preparing. I mean, we already mentioned it. Like, the reason for London Conspiracy's disconnect was pretty much that they are in a boot camp, which means they are preparing. TI is very, very soon. Like, I don't know, the online qualifiers, they start pretty much soon, which means all the teams are at the moment really preparing. But they go for the Bane at the moment. I mean, he still has a Nightmare, which he could put himself into at the moment, but it seems like, no, he goes stealing some life from the Phoenix, and now the Phoenix is actually in trouble. Everything is on cooldown, and he feeds the first blood. The Spirit Breaker, however, he wants to get that Bane, but the counter heal was so strong at the moment. Relax is blocking, eating through the trees. Nice move there by Tron, but the stun hits, and they get actually a 2-for-1 trade here. Lina is back in the mix, stunning the IO, but the problem is there's no follow-up damage. She's just too low at the moment. Level 6 is what she needed, and there is a triple kill pretty much coming out for the Centaur. That's amazing. Big Gnome sure back to lane, but they're all healing up with Salve. We were asking for action grinders. Here it is.
Yeah, in the bottom lane, initiated by Moscow 5 themselves, but Bane is such a very tanky support. It's easy to forget Brainsap offering just that little bit of swing of HP, as well as just having good base stats. They leave the Tiny completely alone in mid lane in the meantime as Emperor farms it up, and that rotation from the IO is really clutch. Mr. Mystery dropping enough damage with the IO Spirits, and then just enough heal to save everybody. As more fights breaking out, Relax burning down to the Fire Spirits is going to be denied by the Bane. Really slick coming out from him. They'll slow down Axe Mode, double damage Madeira, chasing forward. They're looking for a bash, can't find it. Madeira still chasing forward. Axmo dropping low, looks for the Light Strike Ray, isn't going to connect, but the charge is. Madeira dies to the Dragon Slave. As Lena secures the kill for the team, and now they chase for a little bit more. 3-3 is our kill score as Borsalino tries to make it out, but with no mana for Nightmare, no mana for Brainsap, if they get a bash, that'll be his death, and maybe they don't even need it. With the charge forward, they get the vision. Light Strike Ray connects, and Spirit Breaker notches another kill onto his belt. Relax comes in, but this time around, it's Moscow 5 to be favored with this aggression.
Yeah, Madara, that was just too optimistic. I mean, sure, yes, you have a double damage rune, but we are talking about level 4 here. That's 140 damage. Lina is surrounded by 2 with a stun, still mana for Light Strike Array. Was just very optimistic. That's why they lost 2, and that's, of course, really, really bad news. London Conspiracy not entirely giving their advantage away from that earlier brawl in this lane, but of course that was something I felt really unnecessary. Too YOLO, too aggressive. They could have just held back and farm.
Yeah, the biggest issue for them is that they're leaving Emperor to farm it up on the Tiny, and he's getting a lot of gold acceleration now, eating through a stack with an Avalanche Toss. And even though he wasn't involved in any of that directly, he is currently top of the net worth chart, and it's going to continue to get a little bit worse as he's going to farm yet another stack. The farm acceleration for Emperor could be really detrimental for the Moscow 5 lineup.
Yep, that Tiny at the moment in the Wisp combination. It's quite interesting that he doesn't stay for longer in the mid. Of course, there is a Lina now, level 6, which means Laguna Plate comes into the mix. But I think he left the lane quite early. Now he's going back to the lane pretty low, but I'm pretty sure the IO is coming back with a full bottle and everything. So that Tiny should be back to decent HP. We have pretty much the same picture now on the Lina. She's leaving the lane when it pushed out too far and is going for jungle, and then now back into the fountain just to refresh the bottle. It's quite interesting that the lane, the mid lane is so ignored by both sides at the moment.
Yeah, it's still favoring Emperor, all things considered. He's 6 times as many last hits as the Lina, which is impressive to say the least. Relocate, they're going up towards top, Fights brewing at bottom, they'll look for ZXC. Avalanche connects with the silence coming out from the Night Stalker and a toss. They'll be able to bring down the Slark. Bottom lane, the fight never actually happened, and it's just going to be a London Conspiracy to come ahead. Tiny getting yet another acceleration when it comes to his gold income, and he's going to put that into a blink.
Yep, I mean, the duration is just nuts, to be honest. Like 5-second silence on a level 1 spell. It's, I don't know. In my opinion, it's...
Blink, Avalanche, toss in mid, Disruptor's a crater.
Never mind that. I didn't even realize that was so fast how this Disruptor just exploded. But yeah, Night Stalker, just too strong, the silence, especially against Slark. And they might actually do this again there. Night Stalker pop in his ultimate. Lina, stunning him. The silence, is it coming through or not? The last hit is missing, and Tiny's gonna get that kill. And Madara surviving, but this one was really on the edge. Too close to be true.
Now down towards bottom with that Stampede. They also got a kill onto the Phoenix. They'll be able to make it out alive too, as Tron just doesn't get the bash. He's going to start trading blows with the Bane. Bane is going to be bashed very low, and now with the Nether Strike in, Borsalino is going to be smashed down. TP's in from the IOs. Relaxes there with Tranquil Boots activated. He's itching to go, but probably shouldn't be. The Centaur is just on too low HP.
Yeah, and even the center, he should help back and now go for Tranquil Boots. But at the moment, it seems like the Spirit Breaker is a bit surrounded, but he still has a charge out or in. That's now the question, because there is some backup. The Phoenix is coming in, Icarus dive. At the moment, he goes for the center, and oh my god, is that enough? At the moment, the Wisp is healing so much. Tron, super lows, using this... Was that stick charges? I don't even know, but, well, the IO is still under pressure after the center dies, and they dive the tower. They die, but... Big Gnome, what is Big Gnome doing here? Using the Nova just before the tower impact is coming, and well, in the meantime, Tiny is getting that kill on the Lina, so I don't know who was the lucky one. Icarus dive out. Tiny, I don't think he has enough steam to chase this one, but that was a bit messy on both sides.
Messy is a good word. I don't think there's really another way to wrap that up. It was a very hectic fight. Both teams going in with probably too low HP. The IO almost saving the Centaur, but was just coming short when it came to the Fire Spirit's damage with a level 7 Phoenix now. Those Fire Spirits burn, and Centaur is going to be at the receiving end of that. It was stick charges coming out from the IO. It was so close to being enough. But regardless, it's still Emperor to come out on top inside the trade. But this time around, Moscow 5 are going to be happy that their Slark is farming inside top lane and get a favorable numbers trade. It's 8-8 in our kill score.
And if you look at the net worth, like, besides all these fights, and yes, it went a bit forth and back, and London Conspiracy got a beating here and there, especially when they dove and chased too far, but the Tiny is like 2k ahead of the Slark at the moment. The Slark had relatively free farm, except for that one gang top, and the Tiny now having the point booster, and I think 1,000, almost 1,000 on top of it, which means in about 2 minutes, we have... Or make it 3 minutes or 4 minutes, maybe at the worst case scenario. But he has an Arcanum Scepter at this point already, and that's becoming scary, because there we have Ancient stacked and whatnot. Like, he's snowballing even faster from now on.
Yeah, it's really threatening. The amount of gold that London Conspiracy have pumped in this Tiny is huge, and it's really necessary for their team composition. It's all about getting this Tiny farm. They don't really have any other scaling damage. Well, Relax is going to be farming up over in the sidelines, waiting for his Blink Dagger, but even without it, maybe they can set up onto Tron, but he's still too darn tanky. They need to relocate in the Tiny IO.
They want to go on bottom. There's the smoke. 3-man smoke. What they need is Spirit Breaker, charging someone, Light Strike Array, that combination. In case they're running away, they still have a glimpse. So far, we haven't seen much Disruptor action, to be honest. Either he died really fast, or... Oh my god, but they might find a Tiny here. There's some vision. They have it. The charge is coming through, but they see the charge, which means the Tiny knows exactly what's happening. Now they need vision. There's the glimpse, and yes, he's going back in that ultimate. He has no word to say, even... everything committed, but he's just getting relocated out if I'm seeing it right. Yes, and now there comes the turnaround. There's the silence on Big Gnome. He's going down, and the question is there more? Yes, there's the stun here on the Spirit Breaker. 1 second till the charge, and yes, he's charging out, and we have that nice, funny blue circle holding everything else back. That was so clutch. That Tiny, I have no idea how low his HP was. Did you have it on camera? Like,
yeah, 40 HP to
40.
Yeah, to the Phoenix Fire Spirits. It was ridiculous. That was so clutch coming out from the IO of London Conspiracy. They're going to end up taking a pretty commanding lead over Moscow 5. That was supposed to be Moscow 5's way to get back in this game, is by killing off that Tiny, but he survives and now is just 1,000 gold shy of having the completed Aghanim Scepter. It is going to be like 14 minutes in, about the window that you were talking about earlier. The Slark needs to get involved in these fights for Moscow 5 really to turn the tables. They just needed a little bit more damage, but they couldn't find it.
Well, the biggest problem at the moment at nighttime, for example, the Slark can't really join the fights, at least not as a frontliner. Simply because if he gets that 5-second silence of the Night Stalker, Madara putting it on him, then it's really, really bad news. But at the moment, Madara, he's smoked. He has the Bane in the background, and Bane is level 6, which means that should be enough damage on the Slark. They can follow up after the silence with the ultimate, or the ultimate directly. Oh, but... that was so close. He blinks out in just a second, but in the meantime, IO is going down and Relax. Well, does he get the kill on the Spirit Breaker? Yes, he does. TP not enough, and oh, look at this. They want to charge even more. Slander being slowed. There's the ultimate, but he's surrounded by the enemy at the moment, and there is the Phoenix Grip on the Lina. The question is there any follow-up? Now finally Tiny comes in, stun onto throwing the Disruptor in the air, and it's just... well, it's just the Phoenix left at the moment, but the Fiery Bird, it's actually hurting quite a lot. Relax. Yes, he's going to die. It's not a deny this time, but still a bad fight for Moscow 5 if you see the bottom line after all this.
Yeah, it was really an awkward way to start that fight. Io was on low HP to begin with, and was just stacking up for the Tiny. He was spotted out by this Dire Observe ward, and Spirit Breaker's like, oh hey, that's a pretty easy Io kill there. He jumps in, Tiny cancels his Nether Strike twice, once with the Avalanche, once with the Toss. And even though it didn't get anything, it still delayed long enough. Again, he's going to tether away over to the creep wave, right into the hands of Tron as the Tiny blinks in, goes for the Slark with the Avalanche Toss. He rips him to shreds. My goodness. I have no idea what I was going to say, but it's still a favorable trade for London Conspiracy. Emperor is getting too fat. 9,000 net worth here at less than 14 minutes in the game. Moscow 5 need to do something about it, and quickly too.
That was a combination of rip to pieces and shred into something else, and it was a nice mix of words. Either way, the trade Slark versus Io, definitely not worth it. The Io making the escape, the Spirit Breaker committing instead of saving the charge for the Tiny, for example, and Tiny just obliterating that Slark. That's the downside of a Slark going for a Blink Dagger, right as it is, with just strength PTs. He just doesn't offer too much stats and everything, which means that's 4 points in Avalanche and Toss. It's just a deadly combination. Only your ultimate can help you right there, or some stick charges, but not even that is the case. The Slark doesn't even have a stick.
Madera going to smoke up with the Bane on his friendly team, and now they're going to look for blood. They have the Fiend's Grip, they have a level 4 Brain Sap, and they have Night Stalker, who's rocking a double damage rune. Doesn't really get much better, especially when they bump right into Bigum. He's going to be gripped up, silenced up, bashed down by the double damage Night Stalker. Nothing they do. Slark is going to come in. ZXC just doesn't do enough damage, however. He can't even pick off these two supports. The Spirit Breaker charge is cancelled over in the sidelines as Tron is now stuck in the trees. The Io
yeah, look why he cancelled it.
They don't have vision
find
of him
him. They just gonna nuke him in the trees. That's really bad. But that's the good thing about the new Charge of Darkness. Since it got changed, the cooldown is I don't know. It's really nice. It's really low, and I mean, the change was that it's recharging again when you're already charging around the map. So that makes it seem like a very low cooldown, since the cooldown didn't really change after all.
Night Stalker is going to go for a hand of Midas. As London Conspiracy are just buckling down through this point in the game. Honestly, I'm okay with the Midas on Night Stalker, even though usually I'm not. Mostly because they're just so good at fighting even without him having items. ZXC going to look for initiation onto the Tiny, but's not going to find it. A little bit afraid of the Io being behind him, but for the time being, Mr. Mystery is just going to go for an Ancient stack. If they win, they have the chance to get that kill, but he's so tanky on this Tiny. 1700 HP when he's on Strength Threads.
And he's going to be even more tanky when that is becoming a triple stack, which it is right now. So triple stack Ancients coming in from the Tiny, and it's just beautiful. You see, bam, 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 and the numbers are just coming. Everything is orange today. That's really good news for that Tiny. His net worth is just spiraling out of control. It's a 11k net worth versus a 6k on the Slark, who's on the second place. This is just absolutely nuts what's coming out farm-wise on this Tiny at the moment. It's no wonder that he's blowing up people right and left. And we have to see if London Conspiracy actually capitalize on this crazy farm on the Tiny, because you can't farm forever. You actually have to put it at some point into use, or maybe they just want to tank up a tiny bit more, so the next point AC or finishing that Manta, we have to see. But first, they found someone farming that Phoenix. Easy kill.
Poor Bignum. There was absolutely nothing that he could do in that situation. He expects there to be a ward on the high ground, but there's actually not one. Just a pretty straightforward kill for London Conspiracy. Is there going for kills and not really needing the Tiny, but with the relocate, Emperor is always there and ready to join the fray. Tier 1 tower in bottom lane going to be smacked down by Tiny very quickly unless they do something now. Spirit Breaker is there. Tron is going to bump into Mr. Mystery. Mr. Mystery is standing still. No bash is going to be had. There's going to be a point blank charge, but now Tron, Avalanche tossed up, is still able to get off the Nether Strike. Mr. Mystery dropping low. The Stampede trying to buy some space. Tron chasing through the trees. Is getting juked around. The damage from the Eye Wisp Orbs is enough. They'll be able to bring him down. ZXC is going to be inside the kinetic field Static Storm with the rest of the enemy team as he is able to bring down the Centaur. Tiny's still standing over, and Slender is not. He's going to be avalanche tossed as Emperor goes for more. ZXC is going to be able to run away. Emperor drops down to the Fire Spirits and a Laguna Blade from Axmo. They'll chase for a little bit more as Madera gets bashed. Madera inside the Sun Ray. Moscow 5 are coming back big after the buyback. Coming out from their side, the only survivor is Bane. Bane looks to make it out alive.
They want to keep vision. Vision, it's all about vision. If they have vision, they get another charge here. At the moment, well, is it coming? No, it's not. Like Spirit Breaker, he bought back, and I thought that was just for the purpose of really finishing that fight, making it like an all-death scenario. But well, he was just fine with how it is at the moment. So they're gonna lose a tier 1 tower, And a horrible trade. I think this was a 4 for 2 or 4 for 3.
4 for 2 plus the buyback on Spirit Breaker.
Yeah, right. So 4 for 3 originally, I guess. If you count the buyback as like a kill, as in losing goal and stuff, but you get my point.
Yeah, Moscow 5, that was mostly set up by Slender's static field and, or static storm kinetic field, my goodness. But either way, catching out 3 of the enemy heroes was absolutely huge for them. London Conspiracy were, I don't know, chasing the Spirit Breaker to the ends of the earth, and eventually they do get him, but it turns very south for them. Moscow 5 finally take a good trade, and that's going to give Slark so much gold. After being so far behind the Tiny, is now only 3,000 net worth behind him. And although that's still quite a significant amount of money, he's back on the road to recovery. Tier 1 tower up towards top is going to be taken out by Emperor. Although the glyph is going to delay this, I don't expect London Conspiracy to back now. Although, Moscow 5 looking to fight. They've been spotted out by a Radiant Observer Ward, however, so nothing's going to happen there. Just a straight Tier 1 for London Conspiracy, even though they lose the engagement previous.
And to be honest, if I look at the items of Moscow 5, I'm getting actually a bit sad because like all these items, like none of them are really of great significance. Like, none of them are crazy utility items, and it's just
bottom.
Oh, they want to get that Tron, but Tron has to charge out, but of course you can't charge when you're flying somewhere in the air. He just didn't get it out. Easy kill. But yeah, that's pretty much what I already said. If you look at the LC items, there's so many core items that actually make a difference. Twice a Blink Dagger for initiation. The position for the offlaner, Madara here, actually went for a Midas, which is very interesting. I guess just because you can, and just because you don't want to take farm away from a Tiny who is like cleave farming everywhere. So the Midas actually gets you some farm besides all of this, which means we also gonna... Excuse me, sorry. We're also gonna see some nice farm on Madara very soon.
Yeah, which is wonderful. This secures him Aghanim Scepter, I think, is the biggest takeaway from the Midas pickup. Eventually he's going to have that, although he's backing off for a lot of small items. Magic Wand and now Sage's Mask is going to be flying out towards him on the Courier. They'll take out the last remaining Tier 1 tower on the side of Moscow 5. London Conspiracy, even though they lose their fight, it really isn't denting their momentum that much. In the net worth, it is shown very significantly, swinging down to a 2,500 lead when London Conspiracy formerly had about a 7,500 advantage. But regardless, they're back on their feet. 5,000 XP and 5,000 net worth as well.
Okay. Yep, that's definitely something that's, I don't know, gonna make the difference. Looking at the graphs, I don't know, it's London Conspiracy. It was a bit up and down. I mean, that fight... the previous fight for Moscow 5 was definitely decent, and this is also not a graph you can't overcome. I mean, looking at a 5k or so, that's one big fight. And at the moment, ZXC, well, not a big fight, but he wants to get something. Bane would be there using the ultimate. I guess you could get the Bane down, but you have to be careful. The silence around the Night Stalker, that might also trap you there. At the moment, they show the Night Stalker, there's the blink, but whoa, ZXC, that was completely off target. Throwing the Bane into the air. There's no follow-up at the moment. The relocate is coming in, and Lina just getting bashed to pieces. The Disrupt is the next target here. Io, well, he's really going away. ZXC, again, no latch, and that Io Bam is just out. So it's just Tron, but Tron still wants to commit to this fight. Goes in, Nether Strike on that Bane. Sure, Bane is going down, but he might even pay for this because he is pretty much alone. But no, nobody's going to interrupt this. The mini stun of the Night Stalker is not coming through, not fast enough the reaction, but they know what he's charging, and he's really fast. So look at this. Is there... Oh my god, he gets the interrupt. Unbelievable. That was just in time, and now he's completely caught out. There's no TP. A charge in 3 seconds. Maybe here and there he throws a creep on it, and where's the charge? But he's silenced. I can't believe it. He's silenced and he's going down. It was a good try by Mr. Spirit Breaker here, but in the end it's just not working out. Timing was not good.
That fight was so spread out from either side. In the end, it is London Conspiracy to come out ahead in a 1-for-3 trade. After all is said and done, maybe a little bit less than that, but chasing the Spirit Breaker from here to Kingdom Come, they're going to go into the Roshan pit next. Although the Roshan damage isn't the greatest with no minus armor, it's still more than acceptable when they have Mr. Mystery sustaining up Emperor as they take it through. Moscow 5 could contest this if they get into position now, but right now it doesn't seem that they expect this Roshan attempt, and London Conspiracy might just get away with a free Aegis for Emperor.
Yep, that's exactly what you need. Exactly everything you need after such a fight. You have already a big win on your side, and you just
relocate
reward
over onto
yourself.
the Phoenix by the Io. He's completely alone as the fight breaks out around the Roche pit. Emperor going to drop an avalanche, and Axmo completely disjointing his situation, tossed up in the air. He's going to be dropped down. The Io's back over in the sidelines. Not exactly sure what happened there, but it's a 1-for-1 trade starting things off, and it looks like that's how it's going to end as both teams disengage.
Man, I was just thinking about how good it is to finish a fight with killing Roshan, but that was such a blitz. I don't know, coming there, Lina going down, and then the revenge on the center. But overall, it's still a good one-on-one trade for both teams. But the quintessence is Tiny got his Aegis, they got the Roshan golden experience. So London's Conspiracy still bottom lining their win, their advantage.
Yeah, the Tiny now going to be sitting on the majority of an Assault Cuirass. Inside his base, both of the armor components are up and running, and it doesn't seem that Moscow 5 have really found much wind under their sails. Smoke from Madeira and the Bane going to bump into the enemy woods. They drop a ward, spotted out, blink forward by ZXE, is going to pounce away and purge away. He's going to be just fine. TP's in the towers, they look to catch somebody on the retreat. Madeira pops the darkness and runs away at breakneck speed. The Lina can't catch up, and Axmo, although he would have loved to get a Evil's Light Strike array, just a little too slow.
Yep, I mean, it was anyway quite an interesting gank attempt there. Bane, Night Stalker in the enemy jungle with the others pretty far away. I mean, there's always the relocate, which is something you easily forget. Maybe as a player or a caster, I mean, of course they're fully aware of that this could happen, but at this point when they were actually trying this gank, the IO was relatively far away from the Tiny, so that might be like that small window where M5 could actually burst 1 or 2 down, and then they relocate in and see themselves in a very, I don't know, outnumbered fight. But it didn't happen, so it was all good. Stark made it away. We have to see what's happening now. Maybe after this tier 2 tower, they're, I don't know, circling around, going into the mid, maybe a gank there, or maybe there's a relocate bottom, because look at the center, he's coming in. There is the relocate directly on top of it, and Tron, once again, it's really a story repeating itself, but this time, wow, he was tossed, but it was not himself, it was someone else, and he cancels it right there. I have no idea why he did that.
He was home free. He could have gotten out there alive, but in the end, he stops right inside Emperor's blink range. Blink and toss will make that a 1-for-1 trade. Yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing. That could have gone disastrously. In the end, the gold trade is pretty even, in all honesty.
This is... wow, I mean, I have really no idea. What did he charge? Did he charge that IO and IO was killed? Maybe
that's probably what it is. I don't think
Yeah.
there's any reason to cancel your charge there unless that happens.
Because I thought he charged the creep in mid, but apparently there was nothing in range that refreshed his targeting mechanism on that spell. So really, I'm guessing right here, but otherwise it wouldn't make any sense. He would, nobody would ever interrupt this charge directly on a potential even observer ward spot. So we have to just accept it. Spirit Breaker for IO. It's not the worst thing, I guess. Moscow 5 gets away here with a black eye, pretty much.
Yeah, in the end, the Tiny is still going to be the big beneficiary. He has his Assault Cuirass all the way done. Emperor is running to a bit of a situation when it comes to his item slot, since he has gone for Blink and a casual Yasha, where he doesn't really have a slot to put this Assault Cuirass into until he loses the Aegis. They'll probably switch that Yasha out for the AC in the immediate, and then look for a tier 2 tower push.
Yep, definitely. But at the moment, it looks like, I mean, I already said it, having an advantage is one thing, using it is the other thing. But at the moment, I think London Conspiracy, they're doing the right thing, systematically, tower by tower, and you can have the Tiny, and that's the good thing. Also breaking high ground now, which might be something we are looking at. The Tiny with the range, with increased building damage and everything, you can run him in the front line, do the damage, but oh, they're jumping directly on the Lina. What they need is some more damage, but wow. That's why you don't use your Yule Scepter unless you're under attack, but the ZXE is coming in, focusing the Tiny at the moment, but there's always the IO for potential relocate out. Now he's coming in just for healing purpose, and that tower already half HP. There is still a cliff, but of course your Lina is down. She didn't even use any spells, but instead, well, they get Tron down again, and that probably opens them now high ground. Disruptor as he dies in the base. ZXE using his ultimate, but what does he do after the ultimate at the moment? Madara, oh, he's getting stunned directly, even taking damage from the tier 4 tower, but again, ZXE, your pounces are just not connecting today.
And the Tiny with the Assault Cuirass is going to town in the melee barracks. Even if this fight goes south, they will get Madeira. But it doesn't seem to matter. Melee barracks are down, London Conspiracy don't lose the Aegis on the Tiny, even though they don't necessarily get value. This Tiny is huge. He's 10,000 net worth ahead of the Slark, which is the highest on Moscow 5, the second highest in the game, but I think the biggest issue still is that after the Slark, there's a Night Stalker Centaur, and then the Lena, Phoenix, and Spirit Breaker just don't have anything, really, when it compares to the London Conspiracy cores. They're closer in net worth to the Io than they are to the Tiny.
Yep, definitely. I like how London Conspiracy plays this at the moment. I mean, I said that about BBC yesterday, a team known for sometimes taking too many risks and everything. Oh, we have a charge on the Bane. That's quite an interesting one because his team won't be there for follow-up. Yeah, and Tron just interrupted this. So back to my original thought. Some teams really, you know them like with a lot of, I don't know, risk-taking and everything. But here in their bootcamp, training for bigger events and everything, it really looks like objective gaming. Going in, getting racks, not risking anything else. Okay, Madara pickoff was due to Klims, but there's nothing you can do. But I definitely like it, because that's what you need if you really want to win against...
Oh dear. I have no idea what just happened, but my internet cut out for about 5 seconds, so... well, that's a really awkward cut. Hopefully, everything else is going on just fine. But regardless, we're back in this game. Tiny's 6-slotted. They're smoked up with their team and ready to look for a fight, even without Aegis.
Yep, I hope the stream just didn't cut out, mister.
Well, I guarantee you there is going to be a picnic in 2 minutes for just like 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we have to accept that people are gonna go nuts in the chat, especially those people who don't know that their browser has a refresh button. Either way, we're gonna see the last outer tower falling now, the T2 tower bottom lane, and as Emperor looks like, I mean, he's stacked. He's freaking 6-slotted with a tiny, with the IO in the background. So you're gonna see pretty much what we saw in the mid lane already. He's already punching that tower. Look, each and every chunk is like taking a 6th or a 7th out of all of this. Stark, well, baiting out that Blink Dagger. Maybe now they have the setup they need, but oh, there's the BKB, and now it's all about those punches there. Slender is trying to do it, running through his own ultimate, and there's Tron, well, trying to stop him at the moment with his own ultimate. Madara is coming in, trying to get him. I think this is a granted one. No, it's not going down yet, but Zedek C, he bought back, so all in the fight. But Emperor, he got what he wanted, meaty Rex. Sure, there's Phoenix Act, but is that even getting through? At the moment, it really looks like Tiny hitting it. Oh, the Yule Scepter. Well, the egg didn't go down, but he was also not stunned either. The relocate is not available for Io, so at the moment Tiny could still go down. Finally, they got him, but the damage is already done. That's the biggest problem at this point.
And it costs them so many buybacks. Hoofstomp's going to miss. Relax isn't going to catch out the Slark. Madara's stunned up by the charge, but with a Nightmare he'll be able to get out. Relax will die to a Dragon Slave. Axima secures a double kill, looking for the first hit bash. They won't find it. But still, that costs them 3 buybacks, 1 on the Disruptor early on in the fight, and 2 later on the Phoenix and Slark, and they aren't able to defend. They're not able to push immediately after the fact and get a barracks themselves. In fact, Tier 1 Tower still stands mid, although only just. There's just not an opportunity. Moscow 5, it really feels like they're losing any semblance of grip onto this game. The silver lining is that Tiny's probably not getting any stronger, but the bad news is that Tiny is incredibly strong right now, and the power level relative to this Tiny isn't getting much greater for Moscow 5. They do kill him off, but it takes so much, and in that time, he's able to very cleanly take out the melee racks.
Yeah, the sad part is you had to do those buybacks. There was no way around the buybacks. First of all, of course, you're trying to make a comeback into this fight, get some nice high-value kills on top of it. I mean, you knew already that it's not rescuing, it's not salvaging anything when it comes to the building damage. The damage was already done. Meteor Rex was down. The range Rex is just a bonus you sometimes take if you have the time. But they had to buy back just because if you didn't, they would probably go for tier 4 towers and directly on the throne. So London Conspiracy knows that, and I think, yeah, they just did the right decision. Zedek C, he is on Roshan. Madara is not looking into the pit at the moment, so this might work out, but the problem is also London Conspiracy. They're hanging around Roshan. It's just a matter of time till someone actually looks into this. But Tron actually might give this away. There's a sentry now. Slander is disarming, but Madara is coming in, glimpsing him back, but this was not really far enough. He's slowed. Now we have everything just coming in. Slander is just gonna survive for another second or so. Emperor already on Tron. Roshan helping him there. The both 2 big guys just hitting the little ones. This is really unfair. 4 are down, and that nice little I don't know, high ground positioning and the second high ground positioning of Bignum here, it's not gonna help them. The Phoenix just laughing at them all, and we don't even see that nice little punch.
London Conspiracy going to end up taking the game over Moscow 5 after a long delay. We're going to get into this series against Lemon Dogs very quickly, and right now, London Conspiracy are looking really solid. The boot camping really seems to be working. We'll be back here on HeflaTV 1 shortly with that next game. The lobby's already up, and hopefully Lemon Dogs are there.